Admiral Vex stood frozen before the massive holographic display aboard the Galactic Alliance flagship, Star Sovereign. His four eyes widened in disbelief as he watched the impossible unfold before him. The human vessels, mere dots on the vast cosmic canvas, were moving at speeds that defied every known law of space travel. "This cannot be correct," he muttered, his scaled fingers tapping rapidly on the command console. "Run another scan. There must be an error in our systems." The ship's AI responded in its calm, mechanical voice, "All systems functioning at optimal capacity, Admiral. Scans confirm, human vessels are traveling at 150% of the theoretical maximum speed limit." The bridge fell silent. Every alien officer present understood the gravity of what they were witnessing. For centuries, the Galactic Alliance had dominated space travel, their advanced drives setting the standard for what was possible. No civilization had ever come close to matching their capabilities, let alone exceeding them. Lieutenant Reed, a veteran observer of human activities, approached the Admiral's station. "Sir, we've been tracking their technological progress for the past 5 years. They've made exponential leaps in propulsion technology, but nothing indicated they were capable of this." Admiral Vex's secondary hearts began beating faster as he processed the implications. The humans, a species that had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, had somehow broken through barriers that the Alliance's best scientists had declared impossible to overcome. "Show me their energy signatures," he commanded, his voice tight with tension. The holographic display shifted, revealing complex patterns of energy emanating from the human ships. The readings made no sense. Their engines were somehow containing and channeling forces that should have torn their vessels apart. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're detecting unusual spatial distortions around their ships. It's as if they're bending the fabric of space itself differently than our drives do." Admiral Vex felt a chill run down his spine. In all his 300 years of service, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans had been considered a minor species, interesting primarily for their adaptability and determination, but not a significant technological threat. That assessment was now proving catastrophically wrong. "Open a secure channel to High Command," he ordered. "Priority Alpha. We need to reassess everything we thought we knew about human capabilities." As the communication officers scrambled to establish the connection, Admiral Vex reviewed the historical data. The humans had always been unusual among spacefaring species. While others took careful, methodical steps forward in their technological development, humans seemed to leap forward in chaotic bursts of innovation. The first human faster-than-light drive had been crude and inefficient, barely meeting the minimum standards for interstellar travel. The Alliance had dismissed it as primitive, expecting the humans to spend centuries refining their technology as other species had done. Instead, they had witnessed human ships becoming progressively faster every few years, each new generation of engines more sophisticated than the last. The Alliance's scientists had insisted that they would eventually hit the same barriers that every other civilization had encountered, the fundamental limits of physics itself. Yet here they were, casually breaking those supposedly unbreakable laws. "Sir," Lieutenant Reed interrupted his thoughts, "High Command is responding to our transmission." The holographic display shifted again, now showing the stern faces of the Alliance's highest-ranking officials. Admiral Vex straightened his posture, knowing that what he was about to report would send shockwaves through the entire Alliance. "Honorable Council," he began, "I apologize for the emergency communication, but we have encountered a situation that threatens our understanding of space travel itself." "The humans have." He paused, still struggling to believe it himself. "The humans have developed propulsion technology that exceeds our theoretical maximum limits." The council members' reactions ranged from disbelief to alarm. The High Chancellor leaned forward, his ancient face grave. "Explain exactly what you have observed, Admiral. Leave nothing out." As Admiral Vex began his detailed report, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. If the humans had managed to break this fundamental barrier, what other impossible feats might they achieve? The galaxy was about to change, and the Galactic Alliance would need to adapt quickly if they wanted to maintain their position of power. The age of unquestioned Alliance technological superiority was over, ended by a species that had been traveling between stars for less time than the average Alliance citizen's lifespan. The Emergency Council meeting stretched into its third hour. Admiral Vex's report had sparked intense debate among the Alliance's leadership, with some members calling for immediate diplomatic action while others advocated for more aggressive measures. "We cannot simply ignore this development," declared Council Member Thax, pounding his fist on the holographic table. "If the humans have found a way to exceed our speed limitations, they could reach any system in the Alliance before we could respond to a threat." The High Chancellor raised his hand for silence. "What we need is information. Admiral Vex, what do your intelligence reports say about the human vessel's construction?" Admiral Vex projected a detailed scan of one of the human ships. "The outer hull appears standard, nothing particularly advanced. But the internal structure." He highlighted several areas of the schematic. "There are components we cannot identify. Their purpose and function remain unknown to our best engineers." Lieutenant Reed, who had been quietly analyzing data in the corner, stepped forward. "If I may, Honorable Council?" At the Chancellor's nod, he continued. "We've been monitoring human communications channels. They're not trying to hide this technology. In fact, they're celebrating it openly. They're calling it the full drive." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. The term itself suggested capabilities beyond conventional space travel. "There's more," Reed added. "They're already planning to outfit their civilian vessels with this technology. Within months, human merchant ships could be crossing the galaxy in a fraction of the time it takes our fastest military vessels." Admiral Vex felt his scales bristle at the implications. The Alliance's economic power was built on controlling the major trade routes. If human ships could bypass these established paths, decades of carefully maintained economic dominance would crumble. "We must send an envoy," suggested Council Member Lyra, her luminescent skin pulsing with concern. "Open diplomatic channels. Perhaps we can negotiate for this technology." "Negotiate?" Thax scoffed. "The humans are barely more than spacefaring infants. They should be sharing their discoveries with the Alliance as per galactic law." The High Chancellor's ancient eyes narrowed. "Laws which they never agreed to, as they were not part of the Alliance when those protocols were established." He turned to Admiral Vex. "What is your assessment of their likely response to diplomatic overtures?" Admiral Vex considered carefully before responding. "Based on human historical patterns, they will be protective of their advantage. Their cultural archives show a strong tendency toward maintaining technological edges once gained. However, they also display a willingness to trade, for the right price." "And what price could we offer that would equal the value of such technology?" Thax demanded. "Perhaps we're asking the wrong question," Lieutenant Reed interjected. "Instead of focusing on obtaining their technology, we should be asking ourselves how they achieved this breakthrough in the first place. What did our scientists miss?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just improved existing technology, they'd approached the problem from an entirely different angle. "I want every record we have of human scientific development reviewed," the High Chancellor ordered. "Every theory they've proposed, every experiment they've conducted. Someone find out what we overlooked." Admiral Vex watched as the council members began organizing task forces and issuing orders. But a nagging thought kept returning to him: what if this was just the beginning? The humans had proven themselves capable of one impossible feat. What other fundamental laws might they be preparing to break? As if reading his thoughts, Lieutenant Reed approached his station. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from several human research stations. The patterns are different from the fold drive, but equally puzzling. Admiral Vex felt his secondary hearts skip a beat. "Show me," he commanded, knowing that whatever he was about to see would only deepen the mystery of humanity's sudden technological leap. The galaxy's balance of power was shifting, and for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Alliance found itself struggling to keep up with a younger species' pace of innovation. The human research station's energy signatures grew more peculiar by the hour. Admiral Vex found himself unable to leave the monitoring station, his 4 eyes fixed on the constantly changing readings. Each new data stream contradicted decades of established scientific principles. "Lieutenant Reed," he called out, "show me the comparison between their current experiments and the fold drive signatures." The holographic display split into 2 distinct patterns. The fold drive's energy signature pulsed in familiar yet impossible ways, but the new readings were completely alien, structured chaos that somehow held together. "Sir," Reed said, his voice tight with concern, "I've been analyzing their public research papers. The humans have been publishing their theories openly for years. We dismissed them as impossible." Admiral Vex pulled up the papers on his terminal. The human scientific journals were filled with theories that the Alliance had long ago declared unfeasible: space folding, quantum tunneling on a massive scale, artificial gravity wells. Yet somehow, the humans had turned these impossible theories into working technology. "What makes them so different?" he muttered, more to himself than to his crew. "Why can they achieve what our best minds couldn't even imagine?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Mira, a xenobiologist who had been studying human physiology, requested permission to address the command staff. The Admiral granted it, curious about what insight a biological scientist might offer to this technological mystery. "It's their evolution, sir," she explained, projecting an image of the human brain. "Unlike most species, humans evolved as persistence hunters. They didn't just chase prey until it tired, they followed impossible trails, made intuitive leaps, and most importantly, they never accepted apparent limitations." She switched the display to show various human historical achievements. When they couldn't fly, they built machines to do it. When those machines couldn't fly fast enough, they broke the sound barrier. When they couldn't reach space, they strapped themselves to explosive rockets. They've never encountered a limit they didn't try to break. Admiral Vex considered this. The Alliance races had evolved through careful, methodical advancement. Each step forward was calculated, tested, and proven before being implemented. The humans, it seemed, preferred to leap into the unknown and figure out the consequences later. A sudden alert interrupted his thoughts. One of the human research stations was powering up its experimental systems. The energy readings were off the charts, yet somehow contained. "Sir," an officer called out, they're creating a controlled quantum singularity." The bridge erupted in chaos. A quantum singularity, a miniature black hole, was one of the most dangerous phenomena in the known universe. The idea of deliberately creating one was pure madness to Alliance scientists. Yet there it was on their screens, a perfectly stable, artificially generated singularity, barely larger than a grain of sand but containing enormous potential energy. "Send me everything," Admiral Vex ordered. "Every reading, every measurement. How are they controlling it?" The data poured in, each new piece more astounding than the last. The humans weren't just controlling the singularity, they were manipulating it with a precision that should have been impossible. "Dr. Mira," the Admiral turned to the xenobiologist, "in your studies of human psychology, did you find any indication of limits to their ambitions?" The doctor's expression was grave. "No, sir. If anything, telling a human something is impossible seems to make them more determined to prove it possible. It's as if the concept of impossibility itself drives them to push harder." Admiral Vex felt a new emotion rising in his chest, not just fear of human capabilities, but a deep, existential worry about what these beings might become. Today they had mastered fold drives and quantum singularities. What would they achieve tomorrow? As if to answer his unspoken question, new alerts began flooding the system. The Human Research Station had begun Phase 2 of their experiment, and the reading suggested they were attempting something even more audacious than creating a quantum singularity. They were trying to harness it as a power source. The news of humans harnessing a quantum singularity reached the Alliance Council within hours. This time, there was no debate about how to respond. The situation had become too dire to ignore. The High Chancellor himself arrived on the Star Sovereign to oversee the situation personally. "They're playing with forces that could tear apart the fabric of spacetime," the Chancellor said, his ancient voice trembling slightly. "One miscalculation, one moment of imperfect control, and they could create a cascade reaction that would threaten entire star systems." Admiral Vex stood at attention before the massive viewing screen, watching the Human Research Station. Its once unremarkable appearance now seemed ominous, knowing what experiments were taking place within. "Sir," Lieutenant Reed called out, "we're detecting unusual communications from Earth. Multiple transmissions, all encrypted, but the volume suggests something significant is happening." The Admiral turned to his communication officers. "Break those encryptions. I want to know what they're planning." It took the Alliance's best decode systems nearly an hour to crack the human encryption, another sign of their advancing capabilities. When the messages finally became clear, they revealed something that made Admiral Vex's blood run cold. "They're not just experimenting," he announced to the assembled command staff. "They're preparing to implement these technologies across their entire fleet. They're calling it Project Breakthrough." The High Chancellor's weathered face showed genuine fear for the first time in living memory. "How long?" "Weeks, not months," Reed answered, scanning through the decoded transmissions. "They've already successfully tested the systems. Now they're moving to full production." Dr. Mira, who had become a permanent advisor to the command staff, spoke up. "This fits their behavioral patterns. Humans don't wait to perfect a technology before implementing it. They prefer to improve systems through real-world application." "Real-world application?" Council member Thax, who had accompanied the Chancellor, sputtered in disbelief. "They're planning to outfit their entire fleet with experimental quantum singularity drives?" "Not just their fleet," Admiral Vex corrected, studying the decoded plans. "They're preparing to upgrade their civilian ships as well. Every human vessel, from military warships to mining craft, will be equipped with both fold drive and quantum singularity power systems." The implications were staggering. With such power sources, human ships would be capable of not just faster-than-light travel, but nearly unlimited range. They would need no refueling stations, no supply lines. Every human vessel would become a self-contained unit capable of crossing the galaxy at will. "We're also detecting signs of other research projects," Reed added grimly. The quantum singularity work was just one of several breakthrough technologies they're developing. "We're seeing evidence of experiments with dimensional phasing, gravity manipulation, and something they're calling quantum entanglement mass translation." The High Chancellor sank into a nearby command chair, his age showing more than ever. "In all my centuries, I never imagined. How did we not see this coming?" "Because we were looking at them through the lens of our own experience," Dr. Mira explained. "We expected them to follow the same careful, methodical path of technological development that every other known species has taken. Instead, they simply jumped." Admiral Vex watched as more data poured in from human space. Their research stations were lighting up with activity, each one working on a different piece of what was becoming clear was a massive technological revolution. "Sir," an officer called out urgently, "we're detecting power spikes from the quantum singularity test station. They're initiating some kind of sequence." The viewing screen showed the human station beginning to pulse with energy. Readings that should have been impossible were becoming commonplace as they watched. The humans weren't just pushing the boundaries of known science, they were rewriting the rules entirely. Send a priority alert to all Alliance worlds, the High Chancellor ordered. The balance of power in the galaxy is about to shift dramatically. We need to be prepared for whatever comes next. But as Admiral Vex watched the human station's power levels continue to climb, he wondered if anyone could truly be prepared for what humanity was about to unleash upon the galaxy. The Star Sovereign's command center had transformed into a hub of frantic activity. Multiple holographic displays showed human ships across the galaxy, each one now emanating energy signatures that defied conventional physics. But it was the latest development that had truly shaken the Alliance leadership to its core. Confirm that reading, Admiral Vex demanded, his scaled fingers gripping the edge of his command station. Are you absolutely certain? Lieutenant Reed nodded grimly. Confirmed, sir. The humans aren't just implementing their new technologies, they're combining them. The fold drive, quantum singularity power source, and their dimensional phasing experiments, they're merging them into a single, integrated system. The High Chancellor, who had aged visibly in the past few days, leaned forward. To what end? What could they possibly hope to achieve by combining such volatile technologies? The answer came in the form of a public broadcast from Earth, one that the humans were transmitting openly across all frequencies. The message was simple, yet its implications were earth-shattering. Greetings, Galaxy, a human admiral appeared on screen, wearing a simple blue uniform. The United Earth Federation is pleased to announce the successful testing of our new Unified Space Manipulation System, or USMS. This technology will revolutionize space travel as we know it. Admiral Vex watched in stunned silence as the broadcast continued, showing demonstration footage of a human vessel using the combined technologies. The ship seemed to bend space around itself, creating what looked like a tunnel through reality itself. They found a way to fold space while simultaneously generating their own gravitational field, Dr. Mira explained, her scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her concern. The quantum singularity provides the power, while the dimensional phasing protects the ship from the extreme forces involved. But that's not all, Reed added, monitoring incoming data. Look at these readings. They're not just traveling faster or bending space, they're actually creating stable corridors through space-time. Permanent pathways that other ships can follow. The implications hit Admiral Vex like a physical blow. The humans weren't just developing better engines, they were rebuilding the very infrastructure of space travel. Traditional hyperspace lanes would become obsolete. The carefully maintained trade routes that had given the Alliance its power would be meaningless. Sir, a junior officer called out, we're detecting similar broadcasts from multiple human colonies. They're sharing the technology. Freely. With everyone. The High Chancellor rose from his seat, his ancient face a mask of disbelief. They're giving away such powerful technology? To anyone who wants it? It's consistent with their historical patterns, Dr. Mira noted. Humans have a strong cultural tendency toward sharing technological breakthroughs, believing that widespread adoption leads to faster improvement and innovation. Admiral Vex watched as the data continued to pour in. Human ships were already beginning to establish these new spacetime corridors, creating a web of stable pathways that any ship with the right technology could use. The galaxy was being reorganized before their eyes. There's more, Reed said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. The humans are offering to help other species upgrade their ships. They're proposing a galaxy-wide initiative to implement these technologies across all civilizations. The High Chancellor turned to Admiral Vex, his expression grave. What are your recommendations, Admiral? How do we respond to this? Vex studied the continuing stream of data, watching as human ships demonstrated capabilities that would have been dismissed as impossible just days ago. He thought about their persistence, their relentless drive to push beyond established limits, and their inexplicable desire to share their achievements. We have two choices, he finally said. We can resist this change and watch as the galaxy transforms around us, or we can accept their offer and learn to navigate this new reality they've created. And if we accept, the Chancellor asked, what becomes of the Alliance's authority? Admiral Vex watched as another human ship created a stable corridor through spacetime, defying everything he had believed possible. Perhaps, he said slowly, it's time for the galaxy to evolve beyond old power structures. The humans aren't just changing space travel, they're changing everything. The next few days aboard the Star Sovereign became a blur of activity as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Hundreds of civilizations had already accepted humanity's offer to share their revolutionary technology. The Alliance's influence was eroding faster than anyone had predicted. Admiral Vex stood in the ship's observation dome, watching as a human technical vessel demonstrated their new technology to a group of Alliance engineers. The demonstration had been arranged after hours of heated debate among the council members, who had finally accepted the inevitable need to adapt. It's remarkable how patient they are, Dr. Mira observed, joining him at the window. The human engineers have explained the same principles dozens of times today, answering every question without showing any sign of frustration. They're enjoying it, Lieutenant Reed added, reviewing the day's recordings. According to their communications, they're learning from our questions. Apparently, different species' perspectives are helping them refine their understanding of the technology. A bright flash of light drew their attention. The human vessel had created a small demonstration corridor, a stable tunnel through spacetime barely large enough for a shuttle. The Alliance engineers' instruments were going wild trying to measure the impossible phenomena. Sir, a communication officer called out urgently, we're receiving a priority message from the human admiral we saw in the broadcast. They're requesting to speak with both you and the High Chancellor. Moments later, they were gathered in the command center. The human admiral's image appeared on the main screen, his expression friendly but serious. Admiral Vex, Chancellor, he began, we understand that these changes are happening very quickly. We want to propose something that might help ease the transition. The High Chancellor leaned forward. We're listening. We're establishing a galactic transportation authority, the human explained. Not to control or restrict, but to coordinate. These spacetime corridors need to be properly mapped and maintained. We're inviting representatives from all species to participate in its management. Admiral Vex felt his secondary hearts skip a beat. The humans weren't just sharing their technology, they were proposing a completely new way of organizing galactic civilization. This isn't just about faster ships anymore, is it? He asked, finally understanding the full scope of humanity's vision. The human admiral smiled. No, it's not. The corridors are just the beginning. We've discovered that spacetime is far more malleable than anyone realized. With proper coordination, we could reshape the very structure of galactic travel, make distance itself less of a barrier between civilizations. Dr. Mira stepped forward. You're trying to bring the galaxy closer together. Not just physically, but culturally. Exactly, the human confirmed. We've seen what isolation and distance do to civilizations. They breed fear, mistrust, and stagnation. But when cultures connect, when ideas flow freely. He gestured to the demonstration still visible through the observation window. This is what becomes possible. Admiral Vex turned to the High Chancellor, whose ancient face showed a mix of worry and wonder. What are your thoughts, sir? The Chancellor was quiet for a long moment before speaking. In all my centuries, I believed the Alliance's way was the only way to maintain order in the galaxy. We moved slowly, carefully, always prioritizing stability over progress. He paused, watching the demonstration corridor shimmer. But perhaps it's time for a new approach. The human admiral nodded appreciatively. We're not asking anyone to abandon their ways entirely. We're just offering new possibilities, new ways of thinking about what's achievable. As if to emphasize his point, another human ship appeared in the distance, emerging from a larger corridor. It had traveled across the galaxy in minutes, a journey that would have taken weeks with traditional Alliance technology. The first meeting of the Galactic Transportation Authority will be held on Earth next week, the human Admiral continued. We would be honored to have the Alliance's participation. Admiral Vex looked around the command center, at the faces of his crew, at the demonstration still ongoing outside, at the steady stream of data showing more and more civilizations embracing this new age of space travel. The galaxy was transforming before his eyes, and suddenly, he wanted to be part of that transformation. We'll be there, he said, surprising himself with his certainty. The Alliance may have been the past, but this is clearly the future. 1 month after the humans' revolutionary announcement, Admiral Vex found himself standing in Earth's orbital command station, surrounded by representatives from over 1,000 different species. The first official meeting of the Galactic Transportation Authority was about to begin, and the energy in the room was electric. Through the station's massive windows, he could see ships from countless civilizations testing their newly upgraded drives. The space around Earth had become a testament to cooperation, with vessels of all shapes and sizes navigating the newly established corridor network. Quite a change from a month ago, isn't it? Lieutenant Reed appeared at his side, now wearing the joint insignia of both the Alliance and the new GTA. Remember when we thought the humans breaking the speed limit was our biggest concern? Admiral Vex allowed himself a small smile. It seems almost quaint now. We were so focused on the threat to our authority that we almost missed the opportunity they were offering. The human Admiral who had first announced the technology sharing initiative approached them, accompanied by Dr. Mira, who had been appointed as the chief xenobiologist for the GTA. The latest reports are remarkable, Dr. Mira said, her eyes bright with excitement. The corridor network has already reduced average travel times across the galaxy by 87%. Trade between previously isolated systems has increased exponentially. And that's just the beginning, the human Admiral added. We're seeing unprecedented cooperation between scientific communities. Different species are already proposing modifications and improvements to the base technology. A soft chime indicated the start of the general session. The vast chamber quieted as the High Chancellor stepped up to the podium, looking more energized than he had in years. 1 month ago, he began, his voice carrying across the silent room, we believed we knew the limits of what was possible. We had built our entire civilization around these supposed constants. He paused, looking out at the assembled representatives. We were wrong. Admiral Vex watched as various species nodded in agreement. The past month had challenged everyone's preconceptions about what was achievable. The humans showed us that limits exist only in our minds, the Chancellor continued. But more importantly, they showed us something else, that the greatest achievements come not from hoarding knowledge, but from sharing it freely. Through the windows, a new ship emerged from a corridor, its design unlike anything Vex had seen before. It was a joint project, he realized, recognizing elements from multiple species' architectural styles combined into something entirely new. The corridor network is now connecting 90% of known space, the human Admiral announced, stepping up to join the Chancellor. But we're not stopping there. Today, we're announcing the next phase of the project. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing plans that made even Vex's experienced eyes widen in amazement. The humans and their new allies were proposing to create stable, permanent transit hubs at major intersection points throughout the galaxy. These hubs will serve as more than just transportation centers, the human explained. They'll be meeting points for different cultures, centers of scientific research, and symbols of our new era of cooperation. Admiral Vex felt a profound sense of rightness as he watched the proceedings. In just 1 month, the galaxy had changed more than it had in the previous 1,000 years. The old power structures were fading, replaced by something more dynamic, more inclusive. "You know," Lieutenant Reed said quietly, "I've been studying human history more closely. This is what they do, they take impossible problems and turn them into opportunities for growth. They don't just break limits, they transcend them." As if to emphasize his point, another ship appeared through a nearby corridor, this one smaller, sleeker, and moving with even greater precision than before. It was an improved design, Vex realized, already incorporating suggestions from multiple species. The High Chancellor's voice rose again, drawing everyone's attention. "Today, we're not just discussing the future of space travel. We're discussing the future of our galaxy itself. And for the first time in our history, that future is truly unlimited." Admiral Vex watched as representatives from formerly rival species engaged in animated discussions about joint projects and shared research initiatives. The humans hadn't just revolutionized space travel, they had revolutionized how species interacted with each other. As he observed this new galaxy taking shape before his eyes, Admiral Vex finally understood what the humans had known all along: the greatest barrier to progress wasn't the laws of physics or the limits of technology. It was the simple act of believing that something was impossible. In breaking that barrier, humanity had given the galaxy more than just new technology. They had given it hope.